Hi guys, Chris at RC Maker for Workbench Wednesday. Today we're talking about body shells. In specific, we're going to be mounting up the brand new LensBodies Ghibli body shell and showing how you can mount it to your touring car without needing any templating tools or any other measurements pre-existing to fit your car. We're going to be doing it from scratch, and of course we're going to be using the entire range of RC Maker tools and accessories, very much like the mounting tools, wing end plates, body stiffeners and the likes, to show you how you can get the most out of your products and how to mount a brand new touring car body shell to your touring car. So a quick rundown of some of the tools and products we're going to use in this video. Of course, we've got the LensBodies Ghibli body shell. I'm using the 0.5mm, which is the lightweight version. They come in a 0.7, 0.5 and a 0.3, I believe. That's the regular light and ultralight. I'm going to be running the 0.5, using the body braces, and of course using the standard supplied wing that comes with the body shell. As far as tools required, you'll need either your choice of curved or straight scissors, a nice fine Sharpie, so this is the fine version of the Sharpie, body reamer, either a ruler or a pair of vernier calipers, and I'm using the RC Maker wheel arch marking tool, and I like to use the Well RC body line cutting tool. As far as accessories, we're going to be using, for mounting at least, the RC Maker HRP Pro body mount. See if our camera wants to focus there. It doesn't really want to. Along with the extension plates. Now I'm using the extension plates to suit the Iris 1 for the car that I'm mounting on. Keep in mind that this lens body has the same wing mount spacing as the extreme bodies. So you need to make sure that you order the correct mounting plates or mounting extensions to suit extreme bodies, and they'll fit straight into the Ghibli body. I'll also be using the rear body tuck stiffeners and the front center stiffener, as well as the holographic wing end plates because they look really cool. And I'll be finishing off the body with a pair of the RC Maker aluminium wing buttons. So let's get stuck into it and show you how I mount a body from scratch with no measurements. Alright, so the first thing I do with any body is I want to get the scissors out, and I'm going to get it cut down to the basic cut lines of the body shell. I'll do that for the body shell and the wing, and then the next step is going to be mounting the wing to the car using the body mounts. That gets everything locked in, and I can start to set my rear body height before I get it on the car and start to mark the posts. So now that I've got the body cut out, we're going to go about how to mount the RC Maker HRP Pro body mounts. So I'm going to sit these inside here, as there's no actual dimple inside the wing mount, and I'm not sure by just looking at it where the hole's going to line up. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to take my Sharpie and poke up the mount through the inside. Now I know the arrow on the carbon plate has to point out, and I know that the screws have to point forward. So I'm just going to poke that up inside the body shell, like so, and grab my Sharpie and just mark where that is. And I'm going to do the same for the other side as well. I'll use the other side's version and just poke that through there, hold it in place, and just mark where the center of the hole is, and that helps me mark the body position. The next thing I'm going to do is I want to mount the wing, or at least start to mark the wing. Now there is a very faint indentation line on the wing. Some bodies, if you're not mounting this body exactly, comes with an indent line, but I'm just going to try and get the body centralized here, so I might mount it this way, and I'll eyeball the markings on center, and then I usually start my wing mounting position so that the leading edge of the wing here is flush with the leading edge of the standoff. So that's the front of the wing here, flush with the front edge of the standoffs. So I'll hold it in place. I can line up those indentations that mark the center line of those holes, and then mark the repeated line on top of the wing. And that gets me pretty much bang on center. And I usually make the holes in the wing a little bit bigger anyway, so we can just move it around a little bit to try and get it centralized. Now, if you're mounting this for the first time and you're not sure how it's going to handle, because I'm not sure how this is going to handle either, I find this is a great starting point. If you're on a really tight track, I might mount the wing a little bit further forward, or if you're needing more rotation, I'll mount it further forward. If you're on a very fast track where you need a bit more stability, or if you're running a lot of modified, I might mount it a little bit further back. I saw a setup from Alex Hagberg, who ran this body not long ago, and he was running the body a fair way back from the leading edge of the wing mount. So it's always something to keep in mind and play with to tune in the finer characteristics of the body, is where you want to mount that wing position in comparison to where you're going to mount the body on the car as well. So now I've got those marked, I'm going to get these mounts on, and then we can start to mount it on the car. So now that I've got the wing mounted to the car, using the body mounts, I'm going to make sure, and what I've double checked here is I've made sure that the plates are set at the same position left and right, and I've mounted that the plates are facing outwards on the body. Next up, we get your car ready. So if your car's in a race ready condition, that's the best. I like to do this at ride height, and I usually run 5 and 5.5 mil ride height. So you're setting the body on the car as you're expecting to run it. I get the body, slip it over the mounts at the back there, nice and easy, and then we're set. The last thing I check before I go on to mounting the front is I want to double check the rear wing height. We don't really run to a minimum roof height rule here in Australia, but if you're racing at a track or in a series in an area that does, you need to double check that you're going to make sure that your roof height meets that ruling and that your wing height needs to match, because typically the wing can't be above the roof. But we don't really follow that in Australia, and I know a lot of tracks are starting to go away from it. So what I usually check now is I get my vernier and I just kind of slide it up and I measure, and I have a bit of a baseline measurement to where I mount the wing. And I usually measure from the top of the wing to the board at ride height, and that's measured at 111 millimeters. So a pretty good starting point. I might jack it up a little bit, but for now, I'll leave it like that, and we'll turn our attention to mounting the front post and getting the body position sorted out on the car. All right, now to the business end of the equation. This is where most people get a little bit lost on how to mount their body shell and what position to mount it in. So to make it a little bit easier to see, you can see I've very crudely used my Sharpie to go around the wheel arch line, and I've actually marked the marking lines that come indented on the body. So you've got the forward marking line and the rearward marking line, and there's a bunch of little lines in between that as well. Typically, when you don't have a measurement to go off of from the bottom line of the windscreen on the car to the body post point, this is where you want to go to. It's really simple. Drop the body on as we've done already, and then I tend to look at the side here and try and work things out. What I've done here is I've marked the neutral line, so that would be a neutral position, and then if you wanted to run the body further forward, you could push it forward to run something more aggressive. Now, I'm actually having a bit of trouble here with my car because I can't go to a forward mounting position, as the body post at the back there, you can see, are actually touching the back of the body and poking through. So if you're running without the horizontal Body Mount Pro from RC Maker and you're running through the body shell, that's fine as well. But I am pretty much inclined to run a neutral body for a starting position anyway. So I'm going to go ahead and use that body position. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to keep this level as it is, and I'm going to try and come up with the camera, and I'm going to show you just marking the front body post, and then I'm going to take the measurement, and that's going to be what we need. So I've quickly just moved things around to make it easier to see, as well as I'm trying not to trip over my chair. What I'm going to do now is mark the body posts where it sits on the body. So again, I'm going to come around to the side, and I'm going to make sure that I'm lined up. I'm going to look down from the top, and I want to make sure that the body is central in the middle. And once I've marked these posts, I'll get the ruler out as well. And then I just come along and I just mark my little center dot right there on each of the body points. And now we can double check that that is in the middle. I'm going to go punch the holes, and we're mounted. All right, so we're going to do this a bit mobile here. You can see I've punched the front of the body shell, and I've come around and we double check that that's pretty much bang on neutral where we want to do it. What you want to make sure is when you do punch your body shell lines is you make sure that you leave them big enough that there's enough float, the body can move nicely on the body shell. And now we can take the measurement from the center of the hole to the windscreen and record it for later. The next part of this process is to set the body height, and what we want from the body height is we want the center, the vertical center of the line that's there. It's not really there and easy to see, but we'll get to that. We want to make sure that that's pretty much in line with the center of the axle with the body mountings. I've used the RC Maker carbon fiber adjustable body mount washers there, so we can set that, and then we'll be able to set the splitter height, cut the rest of the body out, and then do the wheel arches, and we're ready to paint. Now, I've made some adjustments using the front body mount adjusters here. I've moved the pin up a hole on the body post and then reinserted it here, and it looks like I've managed to get the front wheel arch height pretty much bang on to where it needs to be. So it's important to do that at this point before we go marking out and cutting out our wheel arches. Another method that I like to use is once my body is set, I like to actually check that my splitter is approximately 11 or 12 millimeters off the ground. And I do that with the vernier. So I'll come in here and the top of the splitter and measure till it just touches, and my vernier says 12 millimeters. So that's pretty good. And what we're going to do later is we're going to go around and we're going to cut a lot of this splitter off so that the splitter thickness ends up about 4 or 5 millimeters thick. And then we have our body line set at about 7 to 8 millimeters at ride height from the car. So then it gets enough clearance that it doesn't scrape on the ground when we're going around the track. So what I've gone and done now is I've gone and marked the center here, and ironically it's bang on the center line that the body is marked at. I'm going to do the same for the rear real quick, so I'll show you how we do that. We just look at it from the side, make sure it's set at ride height, and then I go in with my Sharpie and I mark a little dot right on the center of the wheel. Now you can't really see that very good, but you can see that if I just turn, there's my little dot, and we're going to use that to line up our wheel arch tool and go cut out the wheel arches. All right, now I'm going to try and do this from the side. What I've done is I've gone around each corner and I've marked the center line of each of the axles. Now we're going to use our RC Maker wheel arch tool. This is really handy. This has a slot here, so if you want to make your arches further forward or further back on the car, you can, and there's little guidelines you can use to do that there. I'm trying to get that in the light for you, but there you go. But I usually mark mine on the center line, and we're good to go. So I get this wheel arch tool lined up, and if I line it up bang on center on the tool, and then I use my Sharpie to very lightly just mark all the way around, and I give myself a little reference line at the bottom of where I put the tool there. That gives me an idea of where my skirts and my splitter is going to be. Do the same for the rear, find where the dot is, and mark around. And there we go. Repeat for all 4 corners, then we're going to go mark the splitter and the skirt height, and we're good to go to start cutting. So the next part of this is the final piece of marking before we can finally get to cutting. One of the good indications you've got it pretty much bang on is if your wheel arch markings are pretty much in line with the indentations that come from the factory of the body. You can see that's bang on the indentation, so I've done it perfect. The next step is we're going to go mark the skirt line and the bottom line of the body marking. So I've come out to my dining table because my setup board isn't quite the right size for this. What we're going to do now is just fit the body on the car, get it dropped, and of course we've already set our splitter height at the front and our wing height at the back based on, I like my splitter 11mm off the ground and my wing at about 112, 111 at ride height. Make sure all that's set, and the next piece of equipment we're going to use is the Well RC body line marking tool. Now you can do it a different way, you can get a different 3D printed one. RC Maker has these a fantastic little tool. It's made for use with a regular Sharpie, but I don't like the regular Sharpie because it's too thick of a line. So you just have to be careful when you're installing the Sharpie that you get it lined up, because it can work around a little bit there, and you have to make sure that the Sharpie is bang on in the center or as close to it as well. Otherwise you're going to end up with a very different measurement. If the Sharpie's kicking over there, then 8mm not really going to be 8mm. What I do then is I just go around the body shell and start to mark. So I just start to run the line down the skirts from the splitter, and you can see it's showing us we're going to take a bit of material off pretty much all the way around the body shell. I usually cut on the bottom side of this line anyway. And I go around the splitter then, lightly mark all the way around the body shell, and we get ourselves a cut line. We can start to cut the body out and get it marked up. So a quick run to the back there, and we're good to go. Look at that. With our body line, and now we can go ahead and cut this body out. We'll get our splitter nice and thin at the front there, about 4mm thick. It'll end up when we're finished cutting. And we've got our skirt line that keeps it nice and consistent all the way down to the back, and it usually tapers off. That tells us we're running a pretty good rake on the body shell. Now we can cut this out, double check it's mounted correctly, and then we can get to paint. So there you go. There's the final product, a mounted body shell. Double checking things if you want to be really certain. Make sure your splitter is at the correct height. Mine's at 11mm. It's 4mm thick. There's a 7mm gap underneath it when it's sitting at ride height. My rear wing is at now 112mm from the board, and my roof is certainly not legal if you've been checking that minimum roof height rule. But everything's sorted now, and now we're ready. Now for the second portion of this video, we wanted to show you the final mounting. It's being painted, it's being bolted up to the car, and I've gone ahead and done things, just things like the stickering, but the final mounting comes with the use of the rear anti-tuck, the front center anti-tuck, and front foam spacing. So let's get into that. Firstly, I went ahead and painted it, did everything you need to do painting it, lights, stickers, all that jazz. I've gone ahead and mounted up the standard wing for the moment, and I fitted the RC Maker 3D printed holographic wing end plates, which you can't see the holographic right there. There, you can just see a little bit, just a little bit of it. The 3D printed holographic end plates, really cool. Wing end plates provide more stability to the rear end of the car. So if you're finding you want a bit more grip at the rear end of the car, or if it's a little bit loose, you can go ahead and add wing end plates if you don't already have them. So into the body tuck then. These are the rear anti-tuck devices. These are a universal item, so it's a 3D printed base. Uses a 3x12 button head screw right in there to hold it to the HRP Pro mount, and then comes with an aluminium M3 screw. Because they're universal and because there's different widths for the wing mounts and different widths suitably for the body mounts, they do pull the rear quarter in just a little bit, but it's not going to tuck, and if someone does lean on you in the corner, it's nice and solid. In fact, it's going ahead and tucking that. I would recommend, especially if you're going to be using the lightweight or the ultra lightweight body, that you definitely invest in a set of anti-tucks, especially once you want to go racing for mains. And I've gone ahead and installed the new front center braces as well. So again, 3D printed and carbon fiber. It uses a adhesive double-sided tape to hold itself to the inside of the roof, and then just bolts through the outside of the body. So I usually put the stickers on and then mount that with the tape, find the hole, pop the holes in, and then just go straight away with the screws. The last thing that I like to do with my bodies is I like to make sure that I put foam in the front nose cone. I usually probably go a little bit too overboard, but I put foam in the front nose cone to make sure that when you're at speed and the wind's hitting the front here, that it's not deforming to take up the gap that goes between the bumper of the body and the bumper of the car. So if we look at it on here, put it onto the car, directly underneath, you can see there's not really any room. Now, it's not jamming the body up, it's not binding it, but there's no room for the body to be flexing too much. So any of the downforce that's generated on the front splitter of the car is actually being transferred to the body without being absorbed by flex in the body shell. Sorry, it's being transferred to the chassis. You get what I mean. So that's the final things there, and that's some of the really cool products on offer from RC Maker that allow you to finish off the body. So the Lens Ghibli body, I'm really excited to test this out. Of course, that's why we've got the just a classic factory white paint job, which has been really poorly done in a bit of a rush. But I'm keen to try this out, and utilizing all of the best RC Maker products. We're using the HRP Pro, the HRP Pro extension plates, rear anti-tuck, front center anti-tuck. Mounting on the car, I'm using the front adjustable mounts there for the front body post, and of course using the aluminium wing buttons and the 3D printed holographic wing end plates, all from RC Maker, all great products, and can definitely be the little differences to finish off your body shell. We're going to get this on track, and I'm excited to see what it's like. Thanks for tuning in to Workbench Wednesday. It's been a bit of a long one. I hope you've learned something and can utilize all this information to get the most out of body shells and how to mount them on your car.